Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Supercoach Challenges, and we will now be doing a video coming off the back of the team lineups for round 10, a premium video. So a video on some premium targets for this week. There's a few. There aren't that many, right? Because I don't think the break-evens are really aligning with kind of our upgrade cadence at the moment, and people need money. So waiting on players and getting them when they've lost as much money as they can is going to be really important. And in saying that, what we'll be looking at tonight is some targets. So do I want to do this in the same form? So if we do the same format as the rookies, it's probably going to take a while, but we'll do a quick chat. So Marcus Bontempelli, if you don't have him, wait. Right, you should have had him, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Now it's too late. You can't be paying 718k for Bont. Yeah, you can pay 150k less and get some players who will average around about the same. That's the way you need to think about this. Don't get him in just because he's averaging 129, but and yeah, obviously that is a really good score, and it hurts you don't have it. The 5 round of 145 hurts, but break evens up to 133. He has one bad game. He's probably going to lose 30 to 40k and then drop back to 640, 630. That's 100k you save. There's other players you can get, and that's enough to say about Bont. Also, look at these games against the Adelaide in the past two, both at Mars. 87, 88, 199. Yes, but that was at Heritage Bank Stadium. That is not Mars. So, and the Crows are probably better than those two years. So just keep that in mind. So no to Bont at the moment. Tim English, same kind of stead. He's starting to fall. He's nearly, his break even still 143. He drops another 80. He's probably going to lose another 20k. Like this 9.3k loss is projected on 122. So just think about this when you're looking at players. I know you want to get English in, and mate, if your team is fully, if this is your last premium, then don't listen to me. Get English. Or if it's your last 2 or 3. Don't listen to me, because you can make the money, by the end of the buys is when you want to come out with a full premium side at least. And if you can afford it, go for it. But I think the Bont you definitely don't pay for. English, probably more arguable, considering that his first 6 rounds, he went a 130 average, and it's only been round 7, 8, and 9 where he's gone below that. He's still a choosable player, and the 111 was good last time, obviously under break even, so as I said, can make money, but Rob does give away points though, and he is in a lot of teams, so you're just going to be like everyone else or a lot of others. Clayton Oliver, get him in if you have the money. Right, so if you've got rookies on the bench not making money, if you haven't got the Chandlers or the JVRs and Samson Ryans and guys like that, the guys who are making a bit of money, Asava Radicaliers, don't go for that. But if you do, then Clary's a good option at 660. He's gonna keep going big. I mean, he hasn't had his massive 200 game yet, so that's something to keep in mind. He's actually probably underperformed a little bit, and we could see him get tagged by Willem Drew this week, so maybe that's something to keep in the back of your mind. But otherwise, I think end of the day you won't be too mad, and you're still getting a 40k discount on him. Maybe last week was the week to go. The other, I guess, the counter argument is you could wait, see where he's at after this Port Adelaide game, because Fremantle are probably going to be an easy one, but even at Optus he didn't score well. Carlton could be the one that you wait for, even after his bye. But I think at some point everyone will want him in their team. So whether you do that now or in a few weeks, probably at his price now isn't really going to matter, because he probably isn't going to deviate that far. Day cost, 73% of teams don't really want to talk about him. I think if you don't have him, get him, especially because he's back down. This is probably more cheaper than a lot of players coaches have got him at. I mean, his break even is a little bit high, but he'll probably make that. So yeah, probably just get him. Dawson, kind of same thing as English. He's got a really high break even. So this is what I'm saying. The break evens aren't aligning with the upgrade cadence for a lot of these players. So I think with Dawson, you can kind of wait, especially this week. I don't think he's going to go like the 160 against the Dogs at Ballarat. I don't think that's going to happen, but he could go 130 and not lose that much money. Petrarca. Petrarca is doing really well, but the problem is he does generally score well against the bad teams, and they're coming out of it now. Port's, well, actually Fremantle, and he had a really big score against Port, so maybe don't necessarily listen to this, but Petrarca can drop out a stinker every now and then, so I think it probably is not the time to pick him now. Like, he's gone, what, 104, 167, 122, 148. So that, like, if you look at his scores before that, he really didn't have anything that high. Breakevens at 107. So even if he does hit, he's probably not going up that much. Port are probably better than they were last year, I'd say. Oh, but he is a good pod, so one to think about. But he is more expensive than Clary, so, and I'd probably prefer Clary. If you gave me both of them and said, who do you want for a full season, I'm taking Clary over Petrarca every day. So that's probably where your argument goes there. Libba. So he's only in 4% of teams. He's been scoring really well. Like, I love this pick at 600 or 580 or whatever he was. Yeah, 580. I don't like it now because he's got the bad buy where we have a lot of Dogs players, a lot of North Melbourne players, a lot of GWS players, among others. Who else is on his buy? There's quite a few teams on his buy. So Richmond as well, and Port Adelaide. So yeah, probably just leave Libba unless you're looking for that pod. He's actually still a decent price, and the way he's been scoring, he's gone 141, 101, 140, 100, 141. So it suggests 100's on the way against the Crows. You know, I actually think he can score well because he's and he does score well, as you can see, because he is a bit of a contested player. So, yeah, I think this is a good pick, but the buy puts you off. So that is where I stand with that one. Luke Ryan, I thought he was a lot older than he is, but he is actually only 26. So, there you go. Geelong, 27. Yeah, I thought he was like 30. He feels like so much older. Sorry, just had to have a drink. Considering, how long he's been around, he seems to be so much older. But as you can see, he doesn't have the best history against Geelong. Fremantle probably will see a lot of the ball in the back line though, and he has been playing really well. And it's kind of like, is that age where good players start to have some good years, like the peaks is like around that 26, 27, 28. So yeah, he could just keep going. And he is a decent-ish, well, he's not really a pod now, 21%, but personally, I prefer to bet against him because Fremantle, even though he's a defender, Fremantle aren't looking good. I don't know. I just can't trust him after the previous years. Sam Walsh, I would pick Sam Walsh if it wasn't for his buy. He also has that round 15 buy. And that was what I was discussing with Libba as well. He's got the round 15 buy, so that kind of makes it hard to pick him. But he is going to get DPP. He's only in 6.6% of teams, and if your team allows, he will probably be, he's pretty much on F1 status at this point. So, yeah, definitely a good pick if you can fit him with your buy structure. And what's his break even at? 125. So could fall, could go up. Don't know. The only thing I don't like about it is I just don't like picking Carlton players because I just feel like Voss isn't really like level-headed with what he's doing with players. You know, we know Cripps and Hewitt have probably got most of the midfield time, but who knows what they're doing with the rest. And if he plays Walsh up forward a heap and Walsh doesn't get around the ball, even though he does seem to run a bit, could be a bit hard. I'm not going to talk about Torino because a lot of us started him, but yeah, if you don't have him, get him. He's just below Walsh for F1 if Walsh does get the DPP, so that should be enough said. Sarong, Jesus, this would have been a good breakout, and he was kind of one that went under the radar for a lot of teams. He's kind of what I thought Noah Anderson was going to be, and Noah Anderson has become that a little bit now, but this has been like a full season effort for Sarong. I think that he is the main man kind of at Fremantle over Brayshaw a little bit now. He's got a better scoring profile, better contested possession numbers. Just look at the scores. I mean, the 70's not great, but since then, it's kind of the same as Liver. 101, 146, 100, 146, 130, 109, 105, 120. So, decent scores. It doesn't look like he gets those 150s, 160s, but he does get the high 130s quite often. So take that as you may. Geelong is a hard matchup, so with the 120 break even, you can probably wait a week on that if you want, but I do like that pick. Wits is a ruckman. Goodbye. That's goodbye. We thought he wasn't injury prone, but then he had a mystery back injury that seemingly has repaired itself in 2 weeks, which I don't really buy. So I think there's too much risk in this pick. And why not just go to like Darcy or English at this price? So that's my 2 cents on that. And Gold Coast actually have quite a hard run as well. Dunkley, I think everyone would have started him. What's he in 70% of teams, so I don't really need to talk. Nanka's an interesting pod. He's down to 0.7%. If his ankle is actually all right, he could be a really good run home player. Let's have a look at Richmond's run. For Essendon, 2 rucks, not the greatest, but Port, that could be an easy one if they bring back in Tickle next week. GWS, that should be easy against Flynn, Fremantle, Darcy. So that's a bit of a harder one. And so is Marshall and Omac. But then after that, it's a decent run. I mean, Hawthorn have been quite good at keeping rucks from scoring. So that's something to think about. But I don't mind it. Don't mind it as a little pod, to be honest. And he was averaging really well before this. And then, Darcy, as we discussed, we know what Darcy can do. Last week was a testament to that. And he has actually looked really nice this year. So, keep him there. Keep him in the back of your mind. He probably R2 this year. I think he'll probably get ahead of Wits for total points. Well, he is ahead anyway, but I think he'll keep ahead because I think Wits' injury will flare up again. The late general soreness call just kind of rubs me up the wrong way a little bit. Anderson, I think this is like a trap. I honestly think this is a trap. So I started him in my proper team and he went 93, 95, and then 71. And it's like you had to drop him because his break even was 137. He was just plummeting in money. And then he went and made a 139, which was great. But then he had an 89. He really had an 89. Oh, no, that's projected, is it? What are we looking at here? No, give me points only. All right, turn this off. Yeah, so he went that 134, which wasn't break even. Sorry, he had a 139 break even. Then he went 109, 89, and then 144, 189 once Tukes out, and everyone's, he's back. He's the player. He had a low break even, but now at 639, there's no way you should be picking him. He had an 88. He's probably going to drop money. Once this 180's out of his system, he's dropping money. Do not go there. I think it's a trap. Zeeble. What a pick. What a pick. 220k cash cow from 300k, averaging 111 as a forward. Lock him in. 580 is probably very expensive. And I'd probably be going guys like Goulden ahead of him. So yeah. Sorry. But yeah, I do like Zeeble if you don't have him. But yeah, 580k, bit hard to bring him in, but he is going to keep going up because he's got that 180 the 179 still in his cycle. And against Sydney, probably could get a bit of ball back there. So you never know. Kelly, interestingly, has not moved much in price and has actually been the guy that has been good for injuries this year, which is wild to say that he's got his body right when so many other players seem to be having issues. Pretty funny, isn't it, how a guy like a lot of people would have stayed away from is kind of playing really well. And, him and Green are kind of in the same position, I guess, with Green being 60k cheaper, that's a bit of a win. Oh, not even 60k. It's 50k. So yeah, a bit of a win taking green over him at this point with only a 0.2 deficit. But if you also include the fact that Kelly had that injury game in the first round, yeah, really kind of been pretty what's the word, consistent. And you can't, like, at the moment with players dropping everywhere, it's kind of nice to have a guy like Kelly be consistent. Problem with Kelly is if you have Green, same buy, and it's that round 15 buy that's really hurting. So yeah, otherwise, good pick. Marshall, I think we all started him. I look, rucks are probably not what we're looking at, other than the right forwards like Cameron. So Marshall, yeah, if you don't have him, I think just skip him. But most of us do. So yeah, I feel like English and Darcy are going to be better. Or even Gorn. Cameron, yeah, good forward. Good guy to bring up forward. You have to go on him this week. This is a guy that a lot of us have been talking about. So, yeah, 55 break even. You kind of have to go on him this week if you're going to do it, because that break even makes it really hard. But you know, he is a cheap guy. He was going at 109s before, higher than 109s. Like, if because this 89 came at injury time, so 137, 103. The 137, 103. So he's probably would have been averaging like what, 115, maybe 120. So yeah, pretty good stuff from Darcy Cameron. But he should be all right, hopefully, with this injury. So we'll see. Carlton are actually hard to score against for rucks. Like, Pitnet did hold English pretty well, so interesting to see what Cameron can do. Golden, yeah, so one that a lot of people, well, some people decided to skip on after that big search, but I think with Mills out, you kind of have to get him. I think there's no real choice. He's just going to get CBAs, and he wasn't even get CBAs and getting 156. So imagine when he does get him. Yeah, crazy stuff. Goldstein, don't touch. He's an he's a look. We know how good Goldstein's been previous years, and he's actually been serviceable this year. But so many other better rucks, and this 171's a bit of a probably lucky one. And I feel like if Sherry comes back, he could just get kicked out straight away. And then Laird, so he's kind of one that's got a high break even. He's not even been able to get through four quarters at the moment. So yeah, maybe just wait on Lairdy, but I think he's one you're going to want in because when he gets fit, he's going to be firing. Tommy Stewart, yeah, Geelong have a lot of games coming up at home with good matchups, so that's where he scores well with like GWS, and even at Optus, I think he went 187. No, he went 187 GMS and 102 at Optus. So, yeah. Oh, you want him in, like, you want him in your team. Only 20% have him, which is very interesting. But 601 does make it hard. He could have a bad game at Optus and go down. I mean, his break even's what? 129. So yeah, probably can wait on him. And this is what I'm saying. The break evens aren't aligning. Neil, same thing. Break even isn't aligning. He's a bit older, but he has got a good matchup. What's the break even? 155. So yeah, you can wait on Neil. Go to you. You have to trade him. Get rid of him. Sadly, he's had the same fate as Mills, but at least actually got a good score for you. If you had him, get rid of him. And that's all to say about that. Cripper, yeah, don't touch. Same with Charrett, don't touch. These Carlton boys, this is what I was saying, this midfield, I just can't work it out. And just don't touch. Zach Buses, he's been playing great. And if you got him at that low price, what was he? He was what? 50k cheaper than his original price. So what's that? 834. He's like 480. And if you got him at the 480, you'd be really happy. The problem with bringing him in now, and, you know, I have looked at it, is the fact that he's got the round 15 buy. And I'm just a lot of teams are too bloated with those round 15 players. So you probably have to skip. And the 6.6% will love that as a pod. That merit. So Setterfield's out now. Parrish is out already. that's got to mean he gets some midfield time, surely. And his last score against Richmond was 150. And look at this run, right? So Richmond, West Coast, North, Carlton, Fremantle. All of these teams have been just pretty average this year. Port, yeah, a harder one, but he could score well against them. Crows, probably a harder one, but it's at Marvel, so he could probably score well against them. Then he's got Geelong, which is a hard game. But then Dogs, probably easy. Sydney, probably all right. His back end is ridiculous normally. I think last year he averaged like 120, 130 through his back end. And he's got West Coast and North twice coming up. He's actually got GWS as well. So just seems to be like good scoring games. What do you have against GWS? 111. So his third highest score this year. But, no, it quite hasn't been there. But maybe with these guys out in the midfield, they're going to have to rely on him a little bit here. And he is the captain. He's going to want to step up. I guess you can wait because he's got a 120 break even, but hopefully he does break that. And big game. Richmond, who don't really put much time into mids and let him score well, I think he's a safe pick. Degoe 128. I just don't like Degoe did Degoe things this year. 130, 184. You're loving it. Like 122, 107, 116. Yeah, Degoe's back. Degoe's here to play this year. And then he goes 67 and 76, and it's like you're reevaluating this pick again. And that was what he was all last year, and that's what he's been his whole career. He can have these massive games, and then he can it's just the consistency. Collingwood obviously do have quite a nice run coming up with Carlton, North and West Coast. But then Melbourne and Adelaide's, Adelaide he had a bad score against last time. And then he's got Gold Coast, which is good, but then Dogs, it's not too bad back end, but I just don't trust him. 500k though, you can do worse. So the price is what gets you over the line here with Degoe. But I just don't like it. Matt Rao, man, we've always known the potential that Matt Rao shows, and he really did it last week. He showed that 160 ceiling that we all know he has. I'm just not sure that he'll keep it up. If it's not him, it's Anderson. He does have the good buy. He is cheap. He is a pod. And I think those are things that will make people want to go him just because he is a pod. But remember, and he's got the good buy. But remember, if he has a bad score, you are behind a long way because, only 3% of teams have him. So if you do score badly, then that will show pretty heavily in your score for the week. So one to be careful of. Now we're getting to these lower end guys. So Jeremy Cameron. I think watch for him to have like a good run of easy maybe pick off. So maybe this North Melbourne game, so North Essendon. But even then, like at that point, you don't want him. I think he's a skip. But goodbye. So there you go. Tim Kelly. It's amazing how like a good team makes a player look amazing. I'm not saying that Tim Kelly isn't amazing, but I think that his drop off, being correlated with the fact he's gone to West Coast, kind of says a bit about how good Geelong were. But this year he kind of had a little bit of a resurgence. He's scoring well. 103, probably not what you want for a mid though. So pass. Took. I think that sad thing about Took is that he's not going to be in anyone's team at the end of the year. Because and the 3.1% are holding them is pretty wild. Maybe it must be like dead teams, but there's been no information about his knee or when he's going to be back, and even then, like the break-even's 170, and by that time it's like going to be too late. So we might be getting a nice Took Miller, nice and cheap Took Miller next year. Adam Treloar, same thing, injured, done that hammy, but it does say expected available 11 to 12. So I don't think people are trusting Treloar with the hammy issues. So doubt that's ever going to be an option. Rosie, if you don't have him, I'd probably be going Butters. To be honest, like if you don't have Rosie, go Butters. I think Butters has got the high ceiling now with these CBAs coming up, and Rosie's going to have some big scores, don't doubt. But I could see Butters going higher over the next month of footy, at least. And Port actually do have the hardest run apparently coming home, so that's also something interesting. And they had the round 15 bye. There's another thing to think about. Tommy Mitchell, yeah, I'd probably just skip. I don't think his like role at Collingwood's conducive to scoring, and I feel like you've made $200 off him if you start him at the start of the year. So, yeah, well done. Yeah, and Tom Green's also averaging more. So, there you go. Jimmy Sicily. So the thing I don't like about the Sicily pick is that he plays for Hawthorn, and Hawthorn don't know what they know what they're doing. Like, I think this is probably as blatant as tanking as we've probably seen. Like, yeah, you can come out and say like, you know, we're testing our team out. I just don't think it's like, you know, every team tests out the positions of their team. I'm just not sure that you can come out and say that and that be a reason to be just playing players in such horrible positions and not even look like winning. And then, like, for example, like Scrimshaw not being in this team, like, I won't be surprised if Scrimshaw is like playing for them regularly next year, and like Bruce rested every time he travel. Like, come on. Yeah, but anyway, you know, Sicily, obviously, this is what I feel like his season's going to be. He's going to go 128, 60, 130. I feel like that's going to be the cadence you're going to see with him. And yeah, like, what's that? An average of, in the end, is like, what, 128? Oh, well, let's look at the 3-rounder. The 3-rounder is what? 108. So whether you want that in your team, it's probably all right for a D6. And, you know, it's probably better than... Sinclair's got such a good run. So can't say it's better than Sinclair, to be honest. I think Sinclair's just got to work out what they're doing with him at St Kilda. Lloyd, I'd probably skip. I think it's clear that they've got young guys that they're going to run off that back line before they run Lloyd. So skip him. McRae, Buck Bello. That's all I can say. How does a guy who like routinely averaged 130 now not get any CBAs and just suck? No, I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't about McRae, but Jesus Christ, such a good midfielder. And he's just not getting played where he should be, which is annoying because you would have thought Dunkley leaving means he gets more mid-time, but apparently he doesn't. So apparently he's the new Dunkley for the Dogs. God, you probably lose McRae as well, the way they're playing him, honestly. Danger to injury prone. Let's skip through a few of these. So we'll only talk about the ones that are relevant now. So Sard, say relevant, but yeah, Sard, a bit of a downer that I think that injury's kind of affected him and slowed him down last week, but he can bounce back. Short can get the defensive midfielder role because he's been playing a lot of defense, and that's where he's always scored well. So if he does get that defensive mid tag, he could be a really good D6. That's a big pot as well. He's 5 rounds 105, 3 rounds down to 98. But if he can get that back line a bit more, be really good for his scoring. Cogs, I think that if you don't have Cogs, probably leave him. I think it's a good antipod. So yeah, skip that. Brayshaw. Freeman have a real hard run. Brayshaw has been saying he's been playing injured, and funnily enough, out of the 4 players I put in, he's the second best out of the 4 players I put in the poll on the channel last week between because Sicily was obviously the best, Mills the worst, and then Brayshaw just beat Steele because Steele was injured. He didn't actually beat him on score. Did he beat him on score? Maybe he did. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Brayshaw did actually go really well against Geelong, and he has a low break even. So he's had a 136 against them, actually. So it's not that good. Yeah, you know what? I'd probably skip Brayshaw, to be honest. I think there's better midfielders. Houston, interesting pod, but yeah, that average ain't great. Sinclair, look, obviously the 96 ain't great, but he's got a really good run, and if his low scores have come at this point of the season, maybe he's got a long way to go from there. A lot of people talked about Will Day and brought in Will Day, and I think this is probably where we'll end it because I think everyone below. There's actually one player I want to talk about. Maybe. Nah, actually, it's not worth it. Yeah. So I think that Will Day is the one that a lot of people bought in, 22% owned. I'm not sure whether at the end of the day he's gonna be the even D6. Like look at the 3 round 89. He seems to be able to get to a good score but not go anywhere with it. So yeah, I think that. Well, there is one more player I actually talk about, but yeah, I think that has hurt him a bit. Sam Doherty, he's actually come back and scored quite well. What's his 3 round? 103. Yeah. Been playing really well, but 90 break even. But I just don't know what Carlton are trying to do with their team, to be honest. And Doherty's been playing midfield where he doesn't score as well, and then playing backline a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, just don't know with him. Bailey Smith. So Bailey Smith is actually an option with that 3 round up to 104 with Treloar out because he is a forward. And he's a cheap forward, and he's a forward who will probably score enough to be an F6. So if you want a bit of a pod, Bailey Smith is there. However, round 15 bye and a little bit of injury issues. So those are the things too that are a bit of a caveat for him. I said I was going to stop, but there's plays that keep popping up here. So Mason Redman, very interesting. Ridley's back in the team, but he did have a 136 last week. He's a very cheap option that you could look at if you're desperate. Like if you need a D6 and you just need to save some money on someone, you know, he does have the tools to go higher than 136. And I think he is in a contract. I mean, so not 136, higher than, let's say 105 is what you want for your D6. 105, yes. And he is in a contract year, I believe. But look at these scores beforehand, 87, 84 for the 5 and 3 round average. It doesn't fill you with confidence. Jack Steele, I think Steele can still be really good. It's just this injury, man. And that's the hard thing about it. I think you just can't bring him in now. You just kind of have to wait and watch and then pick him up maybe after his bye in round 12. So yeah, that's that, I guess. Looking at that, I don't think there's anyone really below that we want to look at now. Let's go to cash cows a little bit quickly. Yeah, so I think that even looking at this, so my number 1 this week would definitely be Errol Goulden to get in if you don't have him. I know a lot of people do have him, like he's 46% owned. 47% owned, but if you don't have him, I think he's probably number 1. My number 2 would be Zach Mara. I just think he has to be in your team. The good run coming up just speaks volumes. Other players like 3 Clary. If you don't have Clary, get him. Probably one that people have been talking about a little bit. Let's go back to stats. That's not what we want. We want round 9 summary. People have been talking about a Bontempelli trade down. So, yeah, probably not like if you trade him down, yeah, obviously you can get 160k, but then are you really going to want to lose the points and the option of getting him back in or having to try and get him back in? Like, yeah, it's just a hard one. Like, it's like making a Clary trade. Like if you don't have Clary, especially, that's like a double Clary trade you have to make. Like if we're talking about price. So, I mean, this price isn't sustainable, but yeah, it's pretty hard to say to trade him out, but it could pay off dividends. Sorry, because if he has a bad game, you know, he probably loses 60k quick, at least 60, 70, 80, 100k quick. So, yeah, and then you miss those points that he misses, but also you get the money out of it as well. And, you know, Adelaide he hasn't played well against, but in the last 2, which have both been at Mars, but did have that 199, so that could be around the corner. Otherwise, I actually do like Sam Walsh. I think that you should think about him, especially because he looks like getting forward status. So he's good. Caleb Sarong is probably up there as well. So probably I would be saying Sarong, Goulden, Walsh, Clary, and Butters are your main targets this week. Butters based on the fact, and Merritt, sorry, and Merritt. So Butters based on the fact that you can fit him around your buys. Otherwise, I think for now it's kind of a wait and see on a lot of these players. Sicily could be one to bring in just because they got the West Coast matchup, but that might mean he doesn't actually get any of the balls. So that's also something to think about. So that was a run through of some premium targets this week. So as we were saying, probably your main targets, I'll go over this again, is probably Clary, Walsh, Merritt, Goulden, Sarong. Outside of that, guys like Stewart are also options, and guys like even Sicily. So those are two kind of options outside of that as well. But they can be wait and sees, and then guys like Brayshaw and Steele are kind of skips for now. Sinclair juicy in a couple of weeks, I think, because of that run after his bye, you'll want him in, I think. So anyway, if you've enjoyed the video and got a bit out of this, please leave us a like and give us a subscribe. Very helpful for us creators. Otherwise, good luck for this week. I've put the team lineup video up. This one will be coming out as well. And hopefully you have a bit better luck than I had last week bringing in Mills into my main team. In this team, obviously, we weren't affected by that in the Challengers team. Just to finalize on what we're doing with the Challengers team. So did this change? No. So we're running a Baker Davey loop in the middle. We're running a Drury. We brought in Drury and Goulden, and we're running a Drury Chandler probably loop here. Maybe actually we could loop Chandler. Probably rather do that at this point. So we'll run a loop with Chandler and Drury, assuming that Green misses, which is good. And then the VC is Goulden into Darcy, which is probably going to be the one we want to do this week. As I said, hopefully you enjoyed this. Good luck for the weekend, and thanks for watching. Cheers.